Canada. Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.
Yes, sir. Whew.
You assuming I'm a human. What I gotta do to get it through to you? I'm superhuman, innovative, and I made a rubber so that anything.
Oh, you're pointing at me. You know, on my screen, you're on the other side. You have to point the other way.
It's Tony. It's this dude. Chill.
All right, I'm gonna read the comments. Let's see. Because there's a lot of comments I'm walking into. Something about Mike Malone, Smokey. That's a lot of words. I'll read it after. Okay, they're talking about the Knicks. So we might have to talk on the Knicks. Mike Malone to the Knicks. Do we start off with Mike Malone? L host. I never got L host before. Where you at? Chill. Okay, that's on you.
Right
Chill.
here.
Come on, brother. We ready to
Right
talk?
here.
Oh, homie.
I'm right here. Yeah, I am. I'm right here.
L. I've never seen them not be punctual. I know. It's ask Fluent what he think about Ron's Halle versus Nash take. Oh, we're gonna get to all of that. And a bag of potato chips. But first, you tear yourself away from your phone for a second. How you doing, man?
Running good, Tony Tone. I mean, we got the NBA Finals. We got some action going on. We got a coach getting fired.
I love this firing.
I don't, to be honest.
I love it. I love it. I love it. You know why I love it? Because I wish it was me. Sign an extension for $30 million until 27-28, and then they fire him. Here's $30 million. Go home. Thanks. Give me that damn deal. And you know what that means? It means possibly the Knicks are going to fall off, which means I can get that GM job again. See it all coming full circle.
So, oh my God, we got so much to unpack here with this. This is ridiculous. So,
is there anything do you want to just start? I think we should start with, because it's the biggest breaking, I guess, news story, right? Because he took on a team. Sorry, breaking news. He took a team that was like 17-65. Is that correct? Am I wrong? Did I get wrong information?
5 straight 50-loss seasons, Tom. Not 1, not 2, not 3, not 4. 5 straight 50-loss seasons.
My bad.
Yes, 5 of them. 5 straight 50-loss seasons. They were a dumpster fire.
And what have they done since?
So since then, they've been in the playoffs. Since he got the job in 21, they've been in the playoffs every year. Every year they've been in the playoffs since Thibs has been on the crew. They've been to the Eastern Conference Championship. He's been the coach of the year. And by the way, this is his second coach of the year. By the way, it's only 2 other guys that are active, him and Coach Bud, that have been coach of the year twice. That still have jobs, by the way, Tone.
That still have jobs.
That still have jobs, and he's one of them. So, with that being said, there's issues with Thibs's adjustment. There's issues with him running players into the ground. There's issues with how he communicates with his players, because Thibs is an old school guy. Thibs is a lifer. That's who Thibs is. Thibs is a lifer. Thibs is one of those guys who basketball should be played a certain way. He's very stubborn about the way he does things. Not only is he very stubborn about the way he does things, his adjustments can be a little bit tricky. So this Indiana series, well, Thibs had to dig deeper into his bench because Indiana, I mean, Rick Carlisle, for all intents and purposes, Rick Carlisle is going to play 10, 11 guys. In fact, he played 10 guys throughout the course of this series. He found run for Bradley. He found run for Bryant. He even found run for Jarris Walker. I felt like throughout the course of this series that they were just going to run the Knicks into the ground. And that's exactly what they did, Tone. This isn't a team that I felt like could contend with what Indiana did, right? I just don't think that this is a team, because I didn't think that Thibs had the personnel to do it. And I don't think he used his personnel throughout the course of the season properly enough to do it. Thibs will play his rotation guys. Like a lot of people, they get it twisted when they think like Thibs won't dig into his bench. Well, actually, he will. Thibs will play his guys. The difference is, and I've said this to you in the past, Tone, the difference is that when you're with Thibs, it's like being on a date. You better show me something or this date is over. Understand that. This isn't one of those dates where it's going to be all night and we're going to hang out all night. No. Soon as this date starts, you better show me something or I'm asking for the check and I'm out of here. And that's who Thibs is. So,
but is that, I'll pause you there to ask,
sure,
is that the problem? Because if you don't play your 8, 9, 10, 11, 12th man in crucial situations in the regular season that maybe don't matter as much, it doesn't allow them to make those mistakes and have those failures, which there's this baseball guy that I just got sent a clip from him today.
Yeah.
And he said, listen, everything that you do, every failure, and I'm paraphrasing with another thing that I've often said, every failure is a stepping stone to success. So if you don't put them into those situations, maybe, game 30 of the season, game 50 of the season, that, to give them that opportunities to see, how will they react? And if they fail, will they learn from that failure? You run into a situation where he went with like 6 men. Quite frequently, he went with a 6-man rotation, which in today's NBA sounds insane. Like
it is insane. It's not. It doesn't sound insane. It is insane.
It is. We just ripped JJ Redick a new one for playing his 5 starters for the whole second half.
Sure.
And we're like, oh, rookie coach. See, he didn't know what he was doing. Yeah, he was fine in the regular season. It showed in the playoffs. He just got himself fired.
And that's the other thing that I think about, Tone. So a coach like Thibs, who's got the cachet that Coach Thibs has, in addition to him having the cachet that he's had for as long as he's been there. He's been there since the 2021 season. That's 5 seasons he's been there. So with that being said, I felt like he was on a short leash anyway. Like I don't think teams make the decision to fire a coach with that kind of tenure, especially after extending him. He just signed an extension not too long ago. Either this year or last year, he signed an extension through 28. So last season, he signed an extension through 28. So he's on the books for another $30 million, which they have to pay him, right? So with that being said, I think that they were already out on Thibs throughout the course of this year, and I think that they were already looking in a different direction. Now, the question that I have is, Tone, you're a businessman, and you've told me this countless times. When you fail fast. But you've also told me that you can't leave where you are until what? You know where you're going. So if we're firing,
they have a short list.
That's what I'm saying, Tone.
They have a short list.
If we're firing Thibs, one, why are we firing Thibs? Are we firing Thibs because this is a personnel issue? Are we firing Thibs because he doesn't get along with the players? Are we firing Thibs because maybe the game has passed him by? Because I think Thibs is close to, if he's not in his 60s, he's close to that. If he's not already 60.
Well, the thing, I'll say this about Thibs. Thibs is a coach along the lines of, and look, I know him better than some, but I promise you when I say this, a Nick Nurse, a Larry Brown, in college, a Bobby Knight. And why I use those examples, Bobby Knight was perfect for college because you can only take him for like 3-4 years and then you're out.
Yep.
Which is why he's good in college, because he only has the players for 3-4 years, or why he was great in college. But if you look at the history of like Larry Brown, even Nick Nurse, guys that are like the old school, and there's a laundry list of them, old school kind of tough nose, hard coaches, they have a short shelf life because you can only do that and push these players today for that way for a certain period of time, and then you lose them. And then once you lose them, you're done. So their thinking is okay, we got as far as we can with Thibs doing it his way. Now, where we have listen, this roster is good. I think he could have used his deeper into his roster. And now, would any of that have changed the outcome against Indiana? I don't know. However, I think their belief is he got us as far as he can get us, Eastern Conference Finals. Yep. Now let's bring in another voice, a fresh voice, that if that can just take us one more step. Whose new voice can take what he built
Yep.
Right? Like very much Mark Jackson, Steve Kerr. They felt Mark Jackson took them to that point, and they needed that next in some cases, it's not even a better coach. It's just a different voice. And you think about, you had kids, I have kids.
Mm-hmm.
A lot of times, whether it's a parent or a coach telling the kid over and over and over again, and then they hear somebody else say it, they're like, "Oh yeah, okay," and you're like, "Hold on, I've been telling you to do that. I told you that 100 times. Now they told you once and you did it." Yeah. So I think it happens with coaching. It's and
now with that also being said, though, Tone, can I also mention that, you know, Thibs had to deal with some adversity in terms of injuries. Now, some people will tell you that those injuries was because Thibs was running his guys into the ground. I don't think that that's fair. I think that Mitchell Robinson, I think he's made of glass. I'm one of those people. I'm in the minority, and you guys can roast me if you want. I think Mitchell Robinson is made of glass. And the fact that he came back when he came back and Thibs put him back in the lineup, they brought him along slowly, right? He missed. I feel like he missed a large portion of the season with that foot injury, and it's the same foot injury that he had last year when he was in the playoffs. I don't think that had anything to do with Thibs running him into the ground. No, I think that he's already an injury-prone big. That's number one. Number two, losing Brunson for the time that he lost Brunson, that could have happened to anybody. Brunson rolled his ankle against the Lakers. He was out for almost a month. That could have happened to anybody. Now, with that, now he's relegated, and he did this too, by the way. He's now relegated to Campaign, Kolick, guys like that he now has to play. Okay, so he plays those guys, and with Cat, they still stay afloat. Because don't forget, Tone, this team did finish in third place in the Eastern Conference, right? It wasn't like, you know, they lost Jalen Brunson and they fell off the cliff. They fell off a cliff. They didn't do that. They still finished in it. They still finished in the top 3 in the Eastern Conference. But I feel like the difference is Thibs' adjustments are what people are concerned with. So, for example, Mitchell Robinson, the dirty work guy that he is on the glass, there were stretches during the game where, Tone, I'd see him walking up the floor. That's because Indiana was running these guys to death. You got other guys in the rotation, like Precious Achiuwa, for example. So I'm going to take Mitchell Robinson, and I'm going to take Mitchell Robinson, and I'm going to run him for 5-8 minutes, get him out of the lineup. Let him sit closer to the TV timeout because that gives me more time to rest him. Then, after 4 or 5 minutes, bring him right back because Indiana couldn't really do anything with him on the glass. He kicked Miles Turner's ass. I'm going to say it for the people in the cheap seats. He 100% kicked Miles Turner's ass. Turner couldn't do anything with him. But because of Indiana's style of play, he was gassed. Thibs, at this point, started to dig into his bench because that was conducive to what Indiana was doing. The problem was I felt like it was too late. I felt like the lineups that he had where he's got, even though they were working, there was definitely times when they were working where he had Wright, Hart. He had Wright, he had Hart, he had Mitchell Robinson, he had Miles, and he had Shamet on the floor at one point. And they had gone on a 5-0 run to supplement the starters. I want to say that was in game 3. That was the game that they won. I want to say that was game 3. And that lineup does work for a little while. Even though it's a lineup that I hadn't seen all year long, it has worked. It would be nice to see that lineup throughout the course of the season so you can get more acclimated to it. But it didn't. But it did work for that specific time. The problem with Thibs is, and most people will say, that Thibs needs an offensive coordinator. Like, I don't know if you guys noticed, but Tex Winters was the offensive coordinator for the Bulls. He's the mastermind. Like, we talk about how good Bill Jackson is.
I got to tell you, I don't have a good enough explanation for why the NBA, with the complex defensive schemes that they can run, with the offenses that they can run, because not everybody does it. It's still pick and roll, pick and roll, pick and roll. But with the offenses they can run, that we haven't gone to a, like, similar to the NFL where there's the head coach who manages kind of everything and is the face, and then an offensive and because you're right, Tex Winters was the guy who worked on the offense. Phil didn't have to worry about that because Phil had a bunch of personalities to deal with.
Yes.
And there are guys that are kind of talking about, the defense and defensive schemes. And a lot of look, if you don't run a very complex defense or offense for that matter, maybe you don't. But I'm very surprised with the level of play that we haven't seen that. I don't think ever where we've had an offensive, a defensive, and a head coach. And I get I want to control my team and I want to be, the guy who makes all the decisions. But I don't know. I feel like there's a missed opportunity there.
Which you could, though, by the way, Tony. Like, you could still have control of your team, not lose the locker room when you have different voices like that. It's ironic that you bring that up, Tony, because Thibs was the defensive coordinator for the Celtics when they won the NBA championship. He was running their defense. He was their signal caller. He was the guy putting all of those guys in position. So now we get with Thibs in the NBA fight in the Eastern Conference Championship, where he's got way more on his plate than I'm not going to say he's prepared for, because I do think that he was prepared for this. I just feel like if there's a different voice, I feel like if there's somebody there that's a play caller, a legit play caller, and not Prigioni, no, and not Brunson's father, no. I'm talking about an actual play caller that can, like Sam Cassell, for example. I think Sam Cassell is a really good offensive mind as a lead guard, right? Or not even Sam Cassell.
Sam Cassell should already be a head coach, but that's a different conversation.
That's a conversation for a different day. But somebody to the extent that we don't even talk about. Like, for example, Tone, when your guy in Toronto with Nick Nurse is on that bench in Toronto. He's seeing what's going on. He's a signal caller with Dwayne Casey.
Oh yeah, 100%.
He's an offensive. So I think that there's somebody that's like that could have helped Thibs. What I mean when I say that, Tony,
would Thibs have listened? Because the one thing about Thibs is, you say he was prepared for this and he had that, and half of Thibs is perception. We think he plays his players to the ground, and no one will change people's minds on that. Some people's. But we talked about it this season. Actually, the last 2 seasons, we're like, hey, he's kind of changing. He's not killing them. Right? We said that in real time. And now that he's gone, it's, he ran them into the ground, and that's why they were injured, and that's why that. I don't think any of those injuries are, like you said, I don't think any of those injuries were caused because he ran them into the ground. However, my point that I was going is, if he did have that second person, would he listen?
He would have to listen. And not only would he have to listen, Tone, is because I feel like that's what exit meetings are for. So at the end of the season, we have our exit meeting. Hey, coach, I got an idea. That's how Tex Winners was able to sell Phil Jackson on a triangle, because he kept showing it to him. Hey, coach, I got this idea. And it actually helped Tex, because Jordan was getting his ass kicked because the ball was dominated by him. Well, hey, coach, I got this idea with this offense where we get the ball out of Jordan's hands. He could still be effective as a one-on-one player. He could still be effective as an isolation player, but we got to get some more ball movement. We got to get some more action. And if we can get that action, we can make all of these guys more effective, not just him. So when we get into an exit meeting at the end of the season, we sit Thibs down. Hey, coach, got an idea. You tell me what kind of rotation players you're looking for. You tell me what type of starters you're looking for. You tell me what type of offense you think is conducive for this team, because it's obvious that a heliocentric guard like Jalen Brunson, that's not going to get it done, Tone. It's not. A guy like Jalen Brunson, who's consistently pounding the basketball and we're running the offense through him, and he's got the ball in his hands for the most part, that's not going to work for this team.
Let's be clear. When he came off the ball there at moments, he looked really good. So it's not like he couldn't do it. Like, he played with Luka, so he had to know how to play without the ball.
Yes, 100%. Not bad at all. One, he's small. Number two, he's not wildly efficient as a distributor and as a playmaker. But if we put a different system around him, we put a different offense around him where the ball is moving a little bit more, we add in what the triangle was, in addition to how San Antonio moved the basketball, more ball movement, more action. It looks way different than a guy pounding the basketball, looking for a pick and roll or pick and dive with the defense in front of him. Tone, that's not difficult to guard at all. So I think that's where the exit meetings come in with Coach Thibs, where I don't think that we needed to fire him more than we needed to sit down and have a conversation about, all right, coach, what is it that you think is necessary in order for us to get to the next step? Because here we are in the Eastern Conference Championship. We go up against a Boston Celtic team who, by the way, next season is going to be depleted. No Jason Tatum. So you're going to lose Jaylen Brown for a good portion of the season because he's got that knee injury. So with him having that knee injury, okay, Indiana's going to be back. with Indiana being back, we don't know what else is going to happen in the Eastern Conference. So the Eastern Conference, in my estimation, zone is going to be wide open. So you sit down.
Let me just say too. You say Indiana's going to be back. Maybe they're going to be back because here's what's going to happen to Indiana. And you threw out so much stuff there because I was like, let me go back to the beginning. One, you're right. They didn't have to fire Thibs. This was 1,000,000% a political kind of
fall guy.
I don't want to say, fall guy for the season, not going. Well, let's be honest. If I told you at the beginning of the season the Knicks were going to lose in the Eastern Conference Finals, that would have been a win, right? Except for crazy Knicks fans, you would have said, because you probably would have thought, oh, they're going to lose to Boston because, okay, Boston's going to go back to the final. And you would have thought, wow, if they're in that Eastern Conference Final against Boston, I'm happy.
Yep.
But because it was against Indiana, and all of a sudden it was like, well, we need to beat Indiana. Now the season was a failure. And it's like, well, no, hold on. You weren't in the Eastern Conference Final last year. You were in the, right? It was Indiana who was in the Eastern Conference Finals last year.
Right.
So what you did, they took the next step, right? They made the Eastern Conference Final last year. Now they made the final this year. Well, you made the Eastern Conference Finals this year. In this day and age, it's just your turn. You're up next. Next year or this year, it would be there. Indiana didn't make coaching change significant. Did they make significant changes? They did. Was there a significant change that they made? So that's why I agree with you on that point. But they made Thibs the fall guy. Don't know what's going on behind the scenes, so maybe there's more. But now to your last point about Indiana's going to be the same next year. Well, are they? Because Miles Turner's been on the trading block for about 35 years. He's now an unrestricted free agent, which we're going to talk about later in the show because we're going to make some teams out of the free agent list. So is he gone? And people will say, well, is he that big of a deal? Kind of, because if he's gone, then you need to bring in someone to fill his role.
Sure.
And if you do that, does that mean is it free agency? Is it through trade? And then if you're trading, who are you trading? What are you going to trade? How does that change your roster? Every time now, heaven forbid they win the NBA championship, but just getting to the finals, if they have anybody else that's a restricted free agent, a player option, and someone say, hey, you were on a championship team or a finals team, let's get you over here, let's get you over there.
Yeah.
That team changes. Who knows? Maybe Halliburton's dad. I'm making this up completely. I have no insight into this. I'm just giving. Halliburton's dad's like, hey, can you believe Siakam was the Eastern Conference Final? That's crazy. We're gonna talk about that too. That's crazy. You're better off somewhere else. F these guys. And now it's like, oh, now there's this. Oh, I want to trade. So many things can happen in the offseason. And when you're good and you're consistent, that's how you become great.
And I feel like that's what Thibs was, man. I mean,
I know. I'm agreeing with you.
This team was a dumpster fire. They were a joke up until 2021. They had been out of the first round once in 20 years, one time, 5 straight 50-loss seasons, and then Thibs shows up and they're consistently in the playoffs. And it's not just because of Thibs that they're losing, because Julius Randle wasn't good in the playoffs. Not only was Julius Randle not good in the playoffs, they had injuries. Mitchell Robinson had gotten hurt. Not only did Mitchell Robinson get hurt, Julius Randle had gotten hurt. So they had problems. Yes, Thibs had an inability from time to adjust, and that was a problem, but he was getting better. Now, don't get me wrong, Tone. There are issues with the lineup. All right, Tone, I get it. He had 3 guys.
It's not perfect, of course. Okay.
I mean, he had 3 guys in the top 5 in the league in minutes. Right, I get that part. But like Julius Randle getting hurt last year, that wasn't Thibs' fault. He got hurt against Miami. They were down. They were up 12 with 3 minutes. Tone, did we not just see the Knicks come back, then being now 20 in the fourth quarter? Like 12 points with 3 minutes is nothing. Did we not see the Indiana Pacers 3 possessions with less than a minute come back and win? They didn't do it once. They didn't do it twice. They did it 3 times. So with that being said, that's not a Thibs issue. That's anybody could have gotten hurt at that point. He had ended up jumping for a rebound and he ended up falling on his shoulder. It had nothing to do with running him into the ground.
But I go back to, and first let me say, I do apologize that you're seeing me. I'm trying to mute and eat real quick because I haven't had anything to eat because I've been running around with baseball. And so I
Can't have
apologize.
my man passing out on air, y'all.
So I apologize to those who, if anyone finds it offensive, I apologize. I am muting, so you're not hearing me chew. That being said, Thibs, this fall guy, the perception that he's running them into the ground and that's the reason they're getting hurt. You mentioned the exit interview. We don't know, but do you think it's crazy to say, hey, they sat down with Thibs and said, look, you're running the guys into the ground. You need to ease up on them. You need to go deeper into your bench. We need to save these guys. The injuries are, your style of play fault. And we need you to change. And he said, I'm not changing. Look how well it's worked. Why would I change? I got us from a garbage dumpster fire to the Eastern Conference Finals. Why would I change? And they said, well, if you don't change, you're out. And if I know anything about Thibs, well, then I'm out.
Yeah.
And they said, okay.
And that's not ridiculous, Tone, that, Thibs is that stubborn. It really isn't. However, I do think Thibs is at a point in his older age where I do think that he sees a lot more than we give him credit for. Like, people talk about Thibs as a coach. I think Thibs is a damn good coach.
A great coach.
He outcoached JB Bickerstaff when he played against Cleveland in the playoffs 2 years ago when they got out of the first round. I think he outcoached him. I think he outcoached him again when they played against Detroit. I think that Detroit did a damn good job, and I think JB Bickerstaff I think he's a damn good coach. I think Thibs outcoached him again in that series. The fact that they lost Isaiah Stewart, I think that was a problem, but I felt like how he used Cat in that series as a pick and dot, as a transition big, not just as a transition big, but a guy getting downhill. Same thing in the Indiana series. I thought he did a really good job at that. I think the problem was Thibs didn't utilize his personnel to the best of his ability until it was too late. And I think that's something we can fix. I don't think that that's something where we look at him and go, yo, this dude doesn't know what he's doing. He has no idea what he's doing. He should be fired. I think they were wrong for that. I think
to your point, they've clearly decided we want this coach. And listen, if it's like everybody in the chat thinks, right? Hey, Mike Malone can get us to the promised land because he's already won one. And they think that's our answer. Then
isn't it incredible? Isn't it incredible how, and straighten me out if you disagree with this, but isn't it incredible how a coach can win, and now that coach, the perception on him is completely different than what it was a year ago. A year ago, he was a good coach. He was a solid coach, but he just so happens to have the best player in the world. And
that helps.
That 100% helps. And in addition to having the best player in the world, he has a point guard who plays above his head in the postseason, which also helps. And now Mike Malone turns into a great coach, which I don't think that he's a bad coach. I don't. I just think that the perception of winning, because winning matters, and you know how I feel about winning, Tone. Winning does matter. But I feel like the perception of a coach is completely different because we just literally had the Celtics lose. And now the question is should Mazzulla be the head coach with the Celtics? And Coach Thibs outcoached him, and Coach Thibs is a great coach. But then we get to the East Finals where Rick Carlisle is a damn good coach. If anybody knows anything about Rick Carlisle is a damn good coach. And his not only his style of play, his rotations, I think he outcoached Coach Thibs. That doesn't mean that Thibs should have been fired because he got outcoached. I don't think he should be fired. I think that this is something that could have been. I just think it's something that could have been fixed. I think they got.
I struggle with when you say got outcoached, and here's why. There's a lot of good coaches. There's a lot of great coaches, but what takes them from good to great? It's their wins and losses. It's their championships. Like if I said Phil Jackson's the greatest coach of all time, not many people are going to argue it because they're like, well, yeah, he's got 11 rings. Right? Sure, it's easy. However, is Phil Jackson just a great coach? Because let's remember, I'm not knocking. I'm using the best as an example.
Sure.
He had Scottie and Jordan for 6. He had Kobe and Shaq for 3. And then he had Kobe at his best with Pau Gasol and pieces for 2 more. Some would say, well, hold on. He also had Shaq and Kobe and Gary Payton and Karl Malone and couldn't get it done.
Right.
He got Kobe and Gasol to another final. They couldn't win either against once they ran up against a defensive minded team. He had no answers. So when he didn't have those guys, how did he do? Well, he didn't really have them he did not have any of those guys very often. So is he a great coach, or was he just in the perfect situation to have the greatest player in the world for 11 years and won 11 chips, and all the other years he couldn't do it?
Well,
and the thing is he a great coach? And it's like, well, how do you rate that? So that's the first part. I'm not saying he's not. I'm just saying, how do you rate that? You rate it on wins and losses, which is to your point. And why I brought up the got out coached. If I bring in a sub because I've seen this is happening and it works, I'm a great coach. But I'm not the one making the shots and making the passes. That guy is. That guy underperforms and doesn't do his job as I've coached him to do, and it doesn't work. And now you're like, oh, I got out coached. No, that was the right move. That was the right player. That was the right sub. He screwed up, and I get the full blame for it.
Yes.
And so it's because if it worked, it's just like any coach. If what I did works, I'm genius. The same thing, I do it in an alternate universe. It doesn't work. Oh, I got out coached. So all the things you're saying is true about great coaches, good coaches getting out coached. I just struggle with it because it's like, did he do the right thing? And whether it worked or not, that's on the player. You know what I mean?
Let's put a little bit of Phil into context here, Tones, because number one, Phil got the Bulls job. That crew was already together, right? Phil just came in, changed the offense, and in the process of changing the offense, got some guys to buy into what they were doing. When he gets these guys to buy into what they're doing, it doesn't take long. And then they're on the hook. He gets with this Laker team that's already been together with Robert Horry and Derek Fisher and Brian Shaw and Glenn Rice. He gets this group that's already together. He gets them to buy into the system. Why do they buy into the system? Because they already saw somebody else.
Because it worked with somebody else. But let's be clear. Not his system.
No, it wasn't
someone else's system. And then I hear stuff like he managed egos. Did he? I mean, were the Bulls a beautiful, cohesive unit that loved each other? Or is Michael Jordan punching Steve Kerr in practice? Yeah. Did Kobe and Shaq break up when they should have won 6 after they only won 3? Right. So
little did we know that Kobe and Shaq hated each other. We did.
Oh, we knew. Well, we knew.
And I think that they did a good job in terms of the media. I think that they did a good job at masking it, but we had no idea how bad it was. But to my point, he gets with that Laker crew, and they buy into what they're doing. Why? Because we already seen it, and it worked there. So, and he had the cachet as a coach. But let's not forget, Tone, he did take that Laker job back in the 05-06 season when they weren't very good.
And how'd they do?
Not very, bounced in round 1. Goodbye. He's still on the crew in 07. Bounced in round 1 again. And Phil Jackson at this point, now the questions start to arise. Well, maybe you ain't that good of a coach. Maybe you aren't who we think you are, unless you got great players on the team. When in reality, he is, and it's the system. He just needs the right players around in his system for it to work.
How did Steve Kerr do without Curry and Clay?
They in the lottery. That's
what was it? 15 wins, 5 wins, whatever.
Yes, they're in the lottery. Yes, they're in the lottery.
Right. And again, I'm not knocking. Let's be very, very clear, because I'm going to get on you're hating on Phil. No, Phil's probably the greatest coach of all time, right? But a lot of that is who's on your roster, and like anything, did you get lucky to win? Yeah. Because once you win, you get for the most part, you get at least a year or 2 of a free pass. Not always.
Which I think is interesting. Quick side note, Tone. It didn't take you long to get off that Steve Kerr train. You were out. Like
I was out when it happened. But
you were never on that. But now we're in a space.
And all I have to do is look at how Luke Longley did coaching that team.
Oh my God,
he did great. He did great. So
You're talking about Luke Walton. That not Luke.
Oh
Walton.
yeah, who did I see? Luke Longley. My
Yeah,
bad. I was still on the Bulls train. Yes,
Right.
Luke Walton. Luke Walton.
So now we're in a space where we just talked about where so who are they now? Who's in the running?
Yes.
So Mike Malone is a name that's come up,
Yep.
right? Mike Brown is a name that I'm thinking about. Dan Hurley over at UConn. I think that's a name.
He just signed that huge extension. I don't think.
Yes, he did. And
you think he's going to go somewhere?
I don't. The thing about the Knicks, I'm not sure if he wants that job.
Yeah,
that's the thing I'm thinking about. I don't think he wants that job. And another coach that I'm thinking about Frank Vogel. Like a lot of people don't realize Frank Vogel is a damn good defensive coach. Frank Vogel is not a good coach. He's a damn good coach. And Frank Vogel did win the NBA championship with the Lakers. Now, there's people who will tell you that, all he had to do was just roll the balls out with Anthony Davis and LeBron James. No, he didn't. No, he did not. They had a top 5 defense, and they had a top 5 defense with LeBron James, who at that point, I mean, James is 34, going on 35 years old, and he's still awesome. I'm not going to argue that.
No, but he was in his I'm not words about defense stage where and picked up actually as of late, but yeah.
Yes, they still had a top 5 defense, and you have to, for all intents and purposes, you have to keep those guys' ear. I think they made a mistake in firing him. I think he's a guy that they need to consider, because I like Frank Vogel as a coach. He was awesome when he was in Indiana. He was really good when he was in Orlando, and he gets that Laker job and they win the NBA championship. It's not as simple as you guys think, because if it was that simple, then somebody else would have won the championship with that group too. Nobody else did it.
Our chat is saying Budenhauser, Hoser, whatever.
Coach Bud. Yeah, Coach Bud. Well, I think it's somebody that we're not talking about, Tone. And not that I don't like Coach Bud, but again,
David.
Tone, you bullshitting. I for real think it's somebody that we're not.
He's a great coach. He's a great
coach.
Yeah,
I just think it's somebody that we're not talking about, because if you think about like Coach Bud, okay, we've already been on this block with Coach Thibs, not one but 2 coaches of the year. Very defensive minded, very defensive oriented coach. In addition to him being a defensive oriented coach, good X and O guy. Thibs is a damn good X and O guy. If you're gonna fire Thibs for Coach Bud, what you firing Thibs for? They're pretty simple. Yeah. I mean, they're pretty similar.
And why? Same thing with Vogel. You're probably not getting a defensive-minded coach.
And I did just mention that Coach Vogel is a defensive-minded coach, but I also, if you think about the Lakers,
who do you think is the best offensive-minded coach
that's available?
Sure. Listen, everyone's available.
Yeah, everybody is available. I think that.
Oh, and hell no, Bubba G Cut says Mike D'Antoni. No, they've gone down that road already. No,
isn't Mike D'Antoni? Ain't he Pop's age? No, we good. No, we ain't doing that. No, he's the same age. If he's not Pop's age, he's around Pop's age.
So who's you brought up Sam Cassell earlier.
I just think it's somebody. I think it's somebody that we're not talking about, Tone. What I don't want to do is I don't want to recycle bad coaches.
This is New York. This is okay. Wait, this is the NBA, so they're absolutely gonna recycle an old coach. So
you just made the list.
Let's make the list. Who is New York? It's gonna have to be a name. They're not gonna hire Joe Schmo, who's a great coach. They're gonna hire a known name.
Yeah.
Whether he's the best or not for the job, they're gonna want to make a splash, which is wrong. I think a lot of times.
Just because you get a coach with a name, just because
I would love that. I would love Mark Jackson. I apologize. I saw that name come up in the chat. He's been blacklisted though, unfortunately.
It'd be nice if Mark Jackson would get a sniff at least.
Yeah.
Right? And I don't think guys like Patrick Ewing. I don't think Patrick Ewing is at that even though Patrick Ewing, I mean, they won the Big East tournament with Patrick Ewing.
No, you need a guy who's like, this guy can get us to the next level. That's why I think Mike Malone makes sense, whether like in their mind that he can get them to where they want to be.
He already won. Yeah, he already won. Those are the guys that I'm thinking about. I think Mike Brown is a damn good coach. I do. And I'm not recycling Mike Brown, right? I'm not recycling Mike Brown I'm not recycling Mike Brown because I don't think he's a good coach. I'm recycling Mike Brown because I think that he's one of those coaches who I think he can get the attention of the guys.
Yeah.
I think he can get them to play a different way. And I also want to get a coach where the offense is different. I want to get a coach where the ball is moving a little bit more. I want to get a coach where we're not just relegated to just one guy dribbling the basketball and all of you guys are playing off of him like they did in Dallas with Luka. That's not difficult to guard. That's in fact easy to guard. So I'm thinking about coaches like, I mean, I could say Terry Stotts in Portland, but Terry Stotts, that offense was very much.
Is he?
He's not. He's what you call it. He's I think he's in.
Isn't he assistant in Milwaukee?
I thought it was Golden State.
Oh no, they fired him from Milwaukee. Him and Adrian Griffin didn't get along. You're right. You're right.
I think he's in Golden State.
But you're right.
You can correct me if I'm wrong on that one. But I'm thinking about when Terry Stotts was in Portland. He was in Portland, and that offense was centered around Damian Lillard, and the fact that Damian Lillard was
right. Yeah.
Ball dominant.
Yeah.
And I don't want to do that again. I don't. And that's not to say that Terry Stotts doesn't know what he's doing, because I think Terry Stotts was a good coach up in Portland, but I don't want to do that again. I don't think that he's good for this team right here, as opposed to Monty Williams is another guy that I'm thinking about. But do I have to coax Monty Williams into taking the Knicks job? He is family. He used to play for the Knicks.
Yeah, you just have to ask him. If he doesn't jump at the chance, move on. And speaking
I'm not twisting his arm.
Speaking of moving on, we're going to move on because we're running out of time. We got a million topics. I do want to know, you think they're bringing KD into New York?
No, we seen KD in New York already, and that not only have we already seen that, they gave up 5 ones for Mikal Bridges. Ain't no way they trading him. No way. Hell no.
They should. Let's do. Let me. People ask, why am I late? So let me show you why I'm late. Let's start with that, and then you're gonna love this. After this, I'm gonna defend LeBron James.
Uh-oh. Job, young fella.
They call that touching green when he hits it out into the outfield for a 2 RBI to win the game.
Tone, I've become more lenient when it comes to being a multi-sport player, because I was growing up. I played basketball. I played football a little bit, but mom made me quit. That's a conversation for another day. But I'm becoming more on the side of,
you have to play at least 2 sports, or you're never going to make it as a pro, and you're going to burn out. And there's so many kids, especially in the AAU circuit, I talk about this all the time, who are like, they play for their team, and they play a bunch of games, and they want more games than practices, which is a whole different. And then in the summer, if their team doesn't have, they go play for another team. Some of them play for multiple teams at the same time. All they want to do is play games. They get burnt out. They get, like I said, those micro fractures in their knees. It ruined, and they don't get any better skill wise. And it has ruined North American basketball in particular. Hey, I was just showing your highlights from your.
What up, nephew?
Weekend.
What's going on, brother?
Okay.
From the weekend game. He said, "What's up? How you doing?"
Good.
What's up, brother? You all right?
He's tired. He just came from a game. All right, so let's go to my LeBron James apology, but first, not apology, defense. But first, let me show you what I'm defending. So here's the clip.
Well, I think they're generally the last 10, 15 years, it's a big contrast from regular season to playoffs.
Yeah, the first thing I want to say to that is, like, if they're going to allow it to be as physical as it is, you got to give us a little time to prepare for it.
So like post All-Star break, something like that.
I mean, post All-Star break is usually like 30 games left, so maybe like maybe 12 to 15 games left in the regular season. Okay, like a month. Give us a month to prepare for it, because it goes from 0 to 100. It goes from us to be able to body check No body check, no hand checking, no pushing a guy off their spot, no rerouting guys at all.
Right.
For 8-9 months, and then or for 6.5, 7 months, and then
have at it.
2 months straight, have at it.
Have at it.
Like straight up, just no holds barred. And it's fun.
Yeah, I don't think either of us have a problem with it.
We don't have a problem with it.
It's just a contrast.
It's just a contrast, of not being able to get into that flow. So yeah, it's definitely over the last like you said, 10, 15 years, the game, they've allowed us to do it.
Yeah.
And it's fun. I personally wish we could do it all year.
Yeah.
But also have the body makeup for it to do it all year too. So it wouldn't be beneficial to the product to do, run a marathon. Run a sprint during a marathon.
So he got a lot of flack for that because people came out and said, oh, he wants a month off before the playoffs. And I'm like, did you listen to what he said? Did you actually listen to what he said? He didn't say we want a month off to prepare. He said we want the last 15 games, which is about a month, to prepare, meaning, look, we get it. We can't have, because we've had a great playoff. Like, it's been very physical. They've allowed a lot of physicality in these playoffs, and I think that's why they've been so great. What he's saying is you can't go from zero touch to full contact and just flick a switch like that. What he was, what I got from this, and correct me if I'm wrong, was he was saying, let's use the last kind of month, the last 15 or so games of the season to start allowing a little bit more and a little bit more of that physicality. So once the playoffs hit, we don't have to adjust overnight. We've kind of gradually built into playoff basketball, which, by the way, also makes sense because you would think in some cases the last 10 or 15 games of the season mean a little bit more, especially people jockeying for position or fighting for a playoff spot or play-in spot. Boo. So it makes sense because those games are more meaningful too. That's how I took that. Am I the crazy one?
No, and I can appreciate that logic, but I'm a little bit more of an extremist because what he said was, I'd like for it to be the whole season. That's what I want.
Yeah, but that's not realistic.
Why though, Tone? Why isn't it realistic? Where we're not right from the beginning body slamming you. Okay, we're not allowing that. Okay, let's be clear about that. We're not clotheslining guys, right? We're not doing any of that stuff right from the beginning. What we are doing though is we are allowing physicality, and we're allowing more physicality. We're allowing body checking. We're allowing hand checking. Okay, if this is how we're going to play, by the time the playoffs come, one of two things is going to happen. Either you are going to be prepared for this or you're not. We only have 30 games because like James said, after the All-Star break, Tone, 2/3 of the season is already over. This isn't like this is something that we can 3 or 4 months. No, the season starts in less than 8. The playoffs start in less than 8 weeks. If we can get this started right from the beginning, all right, guys, this is what we're allowing. We are allowing body checking. We are allowing hand checking. We are allowing physicality. So you know that when the playoffs come, and hear me out for a second, Tone. You know that when we get through, when we get throughout the course of the season, you know that we're going to play like this. So when the playoffs come, and it's going to be even more physical, you're prepared for the physicality. Now, moving forward, okay, this is how the game is being played. I have to adjust. In the process of me adjusting, I got to take better care of my body. I got to ice more. In addition to me icing more, I got to change not necessarily change my game. That's not the word I want to use. I got to be more prepared.
Adjust. You got to
adjust my game. Sure. I got to be able to play through physicality. I'm not looking for fouls like James Harden would when they first started this, where James Harden would get touched and he looking at the referee. Well, the reason why he's looking at the referee, it ain't because he's soft. It's because for the last 10 years, we've been playing like this, where if I get in the lane and I get pushed or I get body checked, we've been playing like this, so the whistle comes. I think that if you start right from the beginning, I don't think that there's any misunderstandings. I think that it's a longer period to adjust. I think that by the time we get to the playoffs, more teams are prepared for the physicality as opposed to a month to 2 months, because now we're even more ready for it.
The problem with that, and I'm not disagreeing because I've already said I think what the NBA needs to do is make two little tweaks. One, allow hand checking to a certain extent back so that perimeter defenders have a chance. And I almost want that 3-second rule. Like, I'd love for it to be abolished.
Get that out of here, Tone. That shit is dumb. It's always been dumb. Always.
But I'm thinking, if you're not going to just get rid of it altogether, make it 5, make it 7. Let be a shot blocking center there to like make people, not just like get out of the way and let them get a dunk. Here's my problem with what you said, though. As much as I agree with, I like the physicality. I look at the game and I know, one, playoff basketball is so good because the intensity is up a level and it is more physical, and people like that in a short period. Could they watch that style of basketball for an entire season? And the answer is no. Could the players play at that level of intensity and defensiveness of physicality for the whole season? And the answer is no.
Why not, Tone?
Because they can't. Because they've shown that they can't. Because what happens is, when you play that physical, there's going to be times when that intensity, we've seen the intensity not being there. And when the intensity is not there, hear me out. When the intensity is not there, but you have the physicality, then you get an ugly, sloppy game. Right? If people are just slamming each other around, like it's not, we saw that. We didn't like it. They changed all the rules so we wouldn't have that anymore. So let's not go back because it didn't work. So my thing is, I would say have that middle ground instead of all or nothing, because you're an extremist. Meet in the middle. Allow for that bit of hand checking. Allow for like longer time for the center to hang out there, and then it ramps up as the playoffs get in, because you should allow more, right? When you hear the refs, the refs are letting them play. That's what they should do in the playoffs. In the regular season, we still have to understand this is an entertainment business, and so we still do want the highlights and the dumps and we do want that stuff. So let's not allow it to become late 90s, early 2000s, where it was like, oh geez, 79, 74, like you don't want that. So that's what I'm just saying, be careful, because if you go that full route, you're gonna get that. That's what,
and to your point, to counter that point, Tone, I don't want it to be 1990s basketball where you're body checking a guy running off a screen out of bounds like you used to do with Reggie Miller, stuff like that. No, we're not doing that. I am allowed to put hands on guys, and as time goes on, I'm allowed to do a little bit more, right? And I think players will adjust to that, as opposed to, and it's going to be sloppy.
They'll adjust. Just look at the Olympics. The Olympics allows hand checking, and what happened the first few games? America gets like, oh my God, why? Whoa, why does America stink? Sure. They don't. They're adjusting to those little nuances of the game that are different, and then once they figure it out, no problem, they're fine.
And I feel like the same logic. I feel like the same logic is applied to adjusting to the physicality in the beginning of the season. Because again, once we get to the playoffs, to your point, if you see this level of physicality throughout the course of the regular season, because it's not going to be, like I said, 1990s basketball. It's not going to be 2000s where games are 79, 72, or 87 to 80. No, we're still going to be able to get up and down the floor. It's just that we aren't going to be able to be as open as we were. And then come playoff time, you're going to be really excited about it, because you've seen that physicality throughout the course of the season. You're not seeing Charles Oakley knock a guy in the first row, right? You're not seeing Rick Mahorn body check a guy, and no, you're not seeing that.
Kind of nice.
Still call it. It is, to be honest with you. Yes, it is being able to put hands on the guy.
But listen, hockey. No one watches hockey for a reason.
Mm-hmm.
They've got all the physicality, fighting, everything you want. And as much as they try, so you don't want it to turn into, no offense to my Canadian people, you don't want it to turn into a hockey game.
I think that James, his point is valid. I just want to do it a little bit sooner.
Yeah, and my point wasn't whether his point was valid or not, although that's where we ended.
No, they heard it wrong.
It was more about them saying, oh, now he wants a month off.
No, that's not what he said.
And listen, you know me, Troll Tone, not regular Tone, Troll Tone was like, well, yeah, of course he wants time off. Half of his chips were in a shortened season and a full off season to get ready for the bubble. So of course he wants time off. He's successful when he gets that. We got news, like, to get to, not new news, nothing breaking. So let's kick off our speed round, if you will. And I don't even know what I'm going to do. Is I'm just going to pull them up randomly. So I don't. My eyes are closed. I don't even know what we're getting. Bam! Oh, perfect. My favorite topic: the Hall of Fame.
Tone.
Al Horford's resume. 5-time All-Star, 1-time NBA champion, 2-time NCAA champion, 1-time All-NBA and All-Defense, 14 whopping 1,000 career points. Let's retire his number in Boston and put him in the Hall of Fame. Heck, we should retire his number in Atlanta too.
Don't forget, Tone, them 2 NCAA championships, those are in back-to-back seasons, by the way.
Ooh.
Just so you know, the last guy to do that was Jabbar.
Well,
Jabbar and Duke.
Actually, hold on. Jabbar went back-to-back.
Yes.
As the player of the year every time, averaging 25 and 18, and only lost 2 games in those 3 seasons. Did Al Horford do that?
No, he didn't.
Get the hell out of here with that.
Duke, and don't forget, Duke won the national championship, so that was 30 years ago, right? And then in addition to Duke winning the championship, UCLA did it. So I'm in a select group to be able to do something like that. Not a lot of teams have done that. I'm in a select group. So that's number 1. Number 2, Tone again. And the reason why I brought this to you because
because you knew I'd tell you.
Shut your damn mouth.
That's exactly why I brought it to you. Off the strip that I saw his resume and I'm thinking to myself, what does his resume look like to like Horace Grant's resume? Like, what does his resume look like compared to Dennis Johnson, who it took him 20 years to get into the Hall of Fame? Like, what does his resume look like to these guys, right? So with that being said, right? With that being said, is Al Horford going to be a Hall of Famer? Yes, he is, Tone. He's just not going to be a Hall of Famer in the next 10 years, but he is going to be a Hall of Famer. It's going to happen. Yep. It's happening. No doubt about it. And I know that you don't, I know how you feel about Al. I know how you feel about the Hall of Fame, and I dig that. No doubt about it.
It's ridiculous. It's ridiculous. You say it's not ridiculous. It's just put everybody in the Hall of Fame. I don't care. Everybody who plays in the NBA, congratulations, you get to be a Hall of Famer. What's next?
Tony, is this some? I've been hearing this a lot, right? The Raptors made a move in the offseason. They trade for Brandon Ingram. In addition to them trading for Brandon Ingram, they now have Brandon Ingram. They already made a splash with the Knicks with RJ Barrett. And now I'm hearing a lot of this. And my question that I have for this when I hear this is, does this have any legs? You're the native Toronto. You're the native Toronto guy. Does this have any legs? Is there something to this?
Okay, so of course there is, because the Raptors have already come out and said, look, we need to make a superstar splash this summer because listen, they've been kind of in the worst place you can be in limbo, right? For the last, they're not bad enough to get a top draft pick, and they're not good enough to go deep and win a championship. It's the worst place to be. Yes, so they want to make a splash. We know Masai Ujiri wanted Antetokounmpo from the draft when there was a chance he might be a free agent before he signed the extension with the Bucks. He hard pushed to get him. He's always wanted. Fluent Jr. has a bunch of his friends in the chat, so I'm saluting them all, but like, don't take over the show.
Please,
love these guys. So here's the thing. He's always wanted him.
Yep.
Giannis, like most athletes, love coming to Toronto, right? Let's be very, very clear. One, he is Greek / Nigerian. Yep. Okay. Huge Greek population in Toronto.
This is what I was about to ask you, Tone. What does the Greek population look like in Toronto?
Huge. Like when he's here, they show up to the game 2 hours early and they're singing the Greek national anthem for him as he comes into the stadium. Okay, like they would love him. There's also a very big Nigerian population. So he's got the best of both worlds, right? Like I always tell people, don't forget, Toronto is the most multicultural city in the world. Yeah. So he loves it here. Now, will it make sense from a roster standpoint? Is there a trade package they could put together that the Bucks would want? Is there, an opportunity? Because at the end of the day, he wants to win, right? Let's be very, very clear. I think winning is more important to him than anything else, unless he's at the point in his career where he's like, I just want to go somewhere and, live a happy life, which I don't think he's there. So does he feel like, hey, if we bring you over and we have to give up A, B, and C, because they're going to have to give up a lot to bring you here, do I have a chance to win? And listen, the last time, and the sales pitch could be as simple as, well, it isn't any colder than Milwaukee, so that's not an issue. In fact, Milwaukee is probably colder than Toronto, for those that don't know.
Right.
And two, the last time we were able to get a top-tier, top-5 player in the league, he only stayed here for 1 year, but guess what? We knew how to build a winner, and we won a championship that one time that we had a superstar. So you talked about coach's track record. Once you win a championship, hey, look, I've done it before. Hey, once we had a championship player or a superstar player, we won.
Yeah.
So, right, like there's no one on the team right now that you're going to say, oh, that's a guy that can get us to the promised land, right? Like your guy Penn over on the panel thought Scotty Barnes could be a championship number 1A, and that's just not true. He's not. And look, they're going to probably have to give up Scotty Barnes to get him.
Right.
But if you have some good defensive players around Giannis, like let's be smart. Be smart. We know what wins with him. You need a stretch 5 who can rebound. You need a perimeter defender, and you need a secondary scorer. Now, right now, they have none of that. Let's be very clear. They have none of that.
Right.
Sorry, they do have the secondary scorer, because you put BI next to Giannis. Great. Now I just need those other two things, which in today's NBA, they're not crazy hard to find. So
what gets this deal done, Tone? Because I'm thinking about what you have on your roster currently with RJ Barrett, with Scotty Barnes. In addition to Scotty Barnes, the kid from Kentucky that played for the Knicks also. Quigley with Quigley.
Yeah.
You got Quigley. Plus, you got a bunch of draft picks, dude. And you know me, Tone. We may have to get a third team involved in this.
And they probably will, but I think it centers around Scotty Barnes, right? They'll probably want either IQ or Grady Dick, maybe. There'll probably be 3 players just for the money standpoint, and then 3 to 5 first round picks.
So this thing does have some legs.
There is for sure. They're a deep enough roster of good players.
Yeah.
That's their problem. They're a deep enough roster of good players, and there's some redundancy in their roster that if there's mutual interest, which it sounds like there is, and they can put a package together for the Bucks. It depends what the Bucks want to do. So if the Bucks are like, hey, we're blowing it up. Okay, we're going to take those 3 young players, because don't forget Barnes and those they're still young, by NBA standards. So you give me 2-3 of these young guys, one that has, like, Scotty Barnes still has a lot of upside, right? So give me Scotty Barnes and these 2 other young players and a bunch of draft picks for him, plus whatever I'm going to get, because they're going to, if that's what they're doing, they're trading away Dame Lillard, right? Even though he wherever he is from an injury standpoint, someone will give. So there's pieces there that they're going to say, hey, we're going to rebuild. This is a way to get a bunch of. They're looking at OKC. And they're kind of in a similar small market situation, right? Where like, there's no excuse now. How do you get it? Well, you take a chance on a young player, you get a bunch of draft picks, and you build. If you can do that, get a bunch of draft picks and you build.
I got my friends with me. Okay?
Get out of here. Luka, get out of here, Luka. The wrong Luka. That's not Doncic. As I was saying, so there's pieces there for them to build, like OKC did, where it's like, we're going to take a chance to say, hey, can Scotty Barnes look? I don't think he's a 1A, but could he be a 1B or a 2? Yeah. Maybe. You get a bunch of draft picks and you build that way. Well, that's the model, right? Because let's be honest, no big name free agents, just like Toronto, no big name free agents are signing there.
Unfortunately,
so if you can get a bunch of draft picks and some quality young players, that's how you're going to build. And again, like I said, you're going to get less for Dame, but you're going to do it with Dame. You're going to do it with Giannis. Who knows? Maybe they get Lopez into Toronto too, so he gets that piece too, right? And then they only need one more thing. So there's things they can do. There's things they can do.
And it's obvious if you move off of Giannis, you starting over.
Yeah, exactly. You don't trade Giannis and say, okay, we're going to replace him somehow and keep Dame.
100%. If you're moving off of Giannis, you 100% are saying that we're starting over. But I think that this team like any other, and I don't think Toronto's a small market. Let's dead that logic right now, Tone. Toronto is not a small market. Let's kill it. I think, if I'm not mistaken, and you live there, so you know this better than I do.
It's the third largest city in the NBA.
I think like 5 million people live in Toronto. Like,
Yeah.
that's not a small market.
Listen, you got New York and LA, which technically have two teams.
Yeah.
So that population is actually split, but technically.
Right.
And then Toronto kind of hovers around the Chicago, I want to say Dallas Fort Worth population. So it could be third as worse as fifth largest market. But here's the thing. That's just the city. And what you learned when they are winning is the country backs them. So now it's not just a city of 7-8 million, it's a country of 37-38 million. They actually have the biggest market when you think of it that way. But from a media standpoint, Toronto's like, the rest of the country jokes, the center of the universe in Canada. And so it's a bigger deal because you're not going to, there's no team in Montreal. There's no team in Edmonton. There's no team in Vancouver. So, and right now with there being no team in Seattle, all those Vancouver people are kind of like, oh, okay, we're all just happily being, they probably will become Supersonic fans again once they get their team. But it's not that small of a market. Like Kawhi could have been the king of Canada had he stayed, because speaking of Kawhi and Toronto, let's jump. Yeah, since we're on that, what is the question? Who am I taking as the greatest Raptor, or who was the better player?
All-time Raptor edition.
Because all-time Raptor, you can't go no matter what he did in that one season, right? Like you got to go with DeMar, who's been there was there longer, did way more, put Toronto on the map, was the first free agent to re-sign with them and say, I want to be here. Now, if you're saying who's the better player and who did more, sure, Kawhi came in like a tornado, spun everything out of control and then left. But he's the better player. He's the one that did more. But DeMar's still, like, if you're gonna pick, you got to go DeMar.
What sucks though is it just diminishes who DeMar was. There aren't a lot of teams that have had all pros on their team. There's not a lot of them, right? And DeMar DeRozan was an all pro. DeMar DeRozan was in the playoffs. DeMar DeRozan was taking that team as the man deep in the playoffs. Now there's people who think that DeMar DeRozan was a bit of a sham, and that's because he kept running into James. That was the problem. It wasn't anything more than he was running into James. I did see him outplay Bradley Beal in the playoffs. I did see him do that, right? And that's not saying much today, but in 2016,
no, but you're right. There's
in 2016 that was a big deal. He was a damn good player, and he was damn good for that team. They just kept running into James. That's the problem.
You think? Can I pause you to ask for a sec? And I know you have more to talk about these two, but just quickly because you brought up James. Because DeMar believes this, what I'm about to say, and I'm curious if you do. If they don't make the trade for Kawhi, James still leaves and goes to the Lakers. They had the best record in the East for multiple years. They had the best record in the NBA next to Golden State for like 5 years with DeMar and Kyle. Do they still win the NBA championship that year? Everything else plays out the same.
No, I don't think so. They needed Leonard. He was a better player.
I agree he was a better player, but they wouldn't have run into.
No, they ain't running into Cleveland. Like, Cleveland's out. Yeah. James is gone, right? They go through who they went through in order to get to the NBA Finals. Leonard fit with that group way more than DeMar DeRozan did with Gasol, with Ibaka. I think they were more of a defensive unit.
It allowed them to play the defense that Nick Nurse wanted.
And I don't think that it's not just that Leonard was a better player as a bucket getter. He was a better player, and he was better for that system.
No, he's that's why I say when you showed me that, I was like, well, Leonard's the better player. Like, it's not close. But who's the greatest Raptor? Longevity matters, right?
No doubt about it. It does. Mm-hmm.
All right. Do we got? We have more. We got more. We got more. Mm-hmm. Let's put him in the Hall of Fame. Let's put him in the Hall of Fame. Yeah, let's put him in the Hall of Fame. If I'm assuming, scoring champ, MVP, and make. We don't even care about winning anymore. We don't even care about winning. Scoring champ, MVP, and make the NBA Finals in the same season has been done by six players now with SGA. Correct. So we got Kareem, Mike, Shaq, AI, Steph, SGA. Where's LeBron? Oh, that's right. He never did it.
No, he didn't. He did all the other stuff. He just didn't lead the league.
I complimented him this episode, so I got to say something.
He did all the other stuff. He just didn't lead the league in scoring.
Does this mean anything?
Yes, it means a lot. Just so you know, Jabbar, Jordan, and Shaq, they won the NBA championship, which means that he would be in that space if he were able to win. Now, Tone, you know me. You know how I feel about stuff like this. When we get into this kind of space, this is just checking a box. That's all this is. Because when you do something like this in a short period of time, now I got to look at, all right, well, what did Shaq do over the course of his career? What did Jordan do? Even though Jordan did that 4 times, by the way. What did Jabbar do over the course of his career? What has SGA done to be in the same conversation with these guys outside of that? Because what I'm not going to do, Tony, is I'm not going to diminish being the league MVP, leading the league in scoring, getting to the NBA championship, and winning the NBA championship, and winning the Finals MVP, in addition to winning Western Conference Championship Finals MVP too. In addition to doing that stuff, because I got to believe that if that was going on during the 2000s, Shaq would have been the Western Conference Finals MVP, Jordan would have been the Eastern Conference Finals MVP a bunch of different times. With that being said, you doing that does check a box, and you are in that category. It's like in the Basketball Hall of Fame, Tone. Yeah, it's like in the Basketball Hall of Fame, Tone.
Say good night.
Good night.
See you, Neff. It's like in the Basketball Hall of Fame, Tone. You put a pair of shoes in the Basketball Hall of Fame because these are the shoes that Chamberlain wore when he scored 100 points. I bet. Well, what else is there though? That's just checking a box. That's all that is. SGA, I think we are going to have to talk about him, Tone, if he goes and wins this championship and he gets the Finals MVP. We do have to talk about him differently than we did previous to this. I think he puts himself in that generation of guard that wasn't there before. Because when I think about, and I actually had a conversation about this, Tone, the generational guard, I feel like you are, for your generation, how awesome you are as a guard. Where are you in the pantheon of guards in your generation? And I think SGA is at the top of the list. I think there's Luka. I think there's Curry. I think it's him. And then I think it's everybody else. But then what I want to do is I want to talk about other generations. So, Tone, I want to take SGA and I want to drop him in 2015. It's the 14-15 season. That was 10 years ago with Harden, Irv, Curry, Russell Westbrook, Dame, Rondo, Chris Paul. Like, where does he land amongst the pantheon of those guards? And this is what I'm thinking about when I think about, so for your generation, this is what you were. And then when I drop you into a different generation, where do you land? I only put Curry and James Harden ahead of him. He and Chris Paul I think him and Chris Paul, we can have a conversation, but I put James Harden ahead of him by a whisker. I don't put James Harden ahead of him that far, but I put him ahead of him by a whisker. And then I think about dropping him in the 2000s. It's 2004, 2005. And amongst those pantheon of guards like Chauncey Billups and Steve Francis, Steve Nash, Baron Davis, Jason Kidd, like these are the pantheon of league guards. This is what I'm thinking about when I think about being generational. Like what you are for your generation, how awesome you were, and then when I drop you into a different generation, which goes back to my original logic when I talked to you previous, Tone, how much does your game is your game timeless? And I think SGA's game is timeless. And I think that if he were to do this, I think we got to talk about him different. But I still think that he has work to do. I still think that he has more work to do. And I still think that before we can talk about him amongst the pantheon of all-time greats and put him in that conversation amongst the pantheon of all-time greats, he's got to give me a lot more time. This only checks a box.
As long as this only checks a box, I'll agree with what you said. But if I start hearing this puts him in the top 10 guards of all time,
No, we're not doing that.
My head will explode.
No, we're not doing that, Tone, because he's not there. You still got work.
They're going to do, but that's what they're going to do. They're going to look at that graphic and say, well, it's only him, Steph, and AI, and Mike. So he's got to be at least top 10. And that's why I always say I'm not ranking these dudes until they're done. Yeah. Because he's got a lot more work to do. You're right. It checks a box. It's a very good first step to be, let's assume they win and he wins finals MVP. So to be an MVP, NBA champion, finals MVP, scoring champion all in the same season means a heck of a lot. I know a guy who did that multiple times. You can't be in that conversation because you did it once.
I don't think so. And even if you did do it once, what else have you done? And how long did you do it? So because we got so many guys who won one, and we want to crown them as the greatest of all time. And look, championships aren't the only thing that matters. However, you can't have one good run, win a chip, and be like, okay, I'm great. But there's more to it. Now, again, if he's great for 10 more years and he never win another championship, this will still be kind of that crown jewel in his career, and it does mean something. But can you put him over someone who did the exact same thing, but one? Like I always say this, I use titles and rings. I use them as a differentiator if all else is equal, right? Like if I have two guys and I'm like, this maybe, and look, they're not going to be exactly the same, but I'll be like, when I'm looking at this person and that person, like when you say Harden and him by a whisker, when it's that close, you're like, okay, but I got two, I got none. I got two and I got one. That's just kind of tips the scales. Although, yes, a lot of that has to do with circumstance and team. You got to get some credit for it. So if all else is equal, okay, then I'll go. It's like the last resort. But yeah, as long as that's the case, no problem. Like this Tone right here, for example, this Smokey says first team All NBA 3 straight seasons. Tone, don't forget that. Yes, Tone, I'm not going to forget that part.
Not forgetting any of that.
That 100% matters. But I also don't want to leave out the fact that Steph Curry's been an All-Pro 11 times. That's triple what you've done. Triple. He's been on the All-Pro team, I think, 10 times. Right? See, and if he makes the Hall of Fame, he's already. I mean,
he's already in the Hall of Fame.
He's already in the Hall of Fame.
But he's right, because how many Finals MVP aren't in the Hall of Fame?
2. That's it. Actually, I'm sorry. 1. I'm sorry, 2. Iguodala and Cedric Maxwell.
And Cedric Maxwell, yeah.
That's it. Those are the only 2 that's not in the Hall of Fame. Other than that, everybody else are in.
I'm gonna save the Indiana stuff because we'll do like 2 or 3 of them kind of at once.
Yep.
This one I don't have the picture for, but I'm just gonna say on Get Up, they were having to talk about the face of the league, and basically there's one face in the league, it's LeBron James.
Tone, when you turn on the NBA, not just the NBA, when you turn on any entity, whether it's on television, whether it's in food, what's the when you think about McDonald's, what's the face of McDonald's? Ronald McDonald.
Big Mac. Oh no, Big Mac.
Well, that's the food. That's the face of McDonald's.
It's the food.
Right. Okay. So and the face of that is Ronald McDonald.
Yes. Okay.
Right.
You're not thinking of the Hamburglar. Do they have Grimace anymore? I don't even know if they have
Monster. No, I ain't thinking of that.
Cookie Monster.
You're right. I'm talking about the Hamburglar. That's the dude, the thief. No, I ain't thinking about none of them dudes. I'm thinking about Ronald McDonald is the face of McDonald's. That's who that. So when I turn on the NBA, who is the face of the NBA? Who's the first person I think about? James.
LeBron James.
James. Even today, even to this, like look at this right here. NBA players with the most Instagram followers.
It's not even close.
Almost 160 million.
It's not even close.
That's triple. I mean, that's double. I'm sorry. That's almost triple what Curry has. Russell Westbrook, not close. Irv, not close. Lonzo Ball, Klay Thompson. None of these dudes are even in the stratosphere. When you think about the NBA, LeBron James.
If you add up the next 5, I don't think they match him. So, like, who's the face of the league? There's your answer. Like, and you don't. It's not a debate.
It's not.
It's just it's not a debate. And he is the face of the league. You can't give it to Ant. Whether when he says he doesn't want it, it's not yours to want. It's not. If you want to give it to SJ, it's not yours. It's not Giannis. it's LeBron James, and it's not close.
LeBron James.
So until right, someone has to take it. And here's the thing: as long as they're a different champion every single year, no one's getting it.
Nope.
And let's be very clear: there doesn't have to be a face of the league. LeBron James could retire tomorrow, and someone doesn't automatically now become the face. You're just faceless, and that's not good for the league. FYI. So there is no face. Everybody wants to put it on someone, their favorite player, who they think is the best player. All these other things. You can't. You can't take it. There was one. No, the other two things are Indiana stuff. So let's do a little Indiana. We're gonna make our picks. Can we go like 10 minutes late because we started a little bit late? Is that cool? And then I'll put the link. Actually, you know what? I'll put the link in now. In case anyone wants to join. Just know, be patient. You're not going to come up for about 5 minutes if you do jump in. So there you go. There's that. Let's start with this one because I think they got this one wrong. And I think I don't like who the voters are. And I think you and I should get a vote because I don't think. So you got two guys from ESPN. Yeah. Katie George from ESPN Radio. One from the Indianapolis Star. Steve from NBA.com. You got Fred from The Athletic. Reggie Miller from the TNT. Here's your 9 voters, excuse me. 4 voted for Tyrese Halliburton. 5 voted for Pascal Siakam. No one was more surprised than Halliburton that he didn't win.
He thought he was the guy.
1, I think there's not enough people in it. 2, I think there's way too many people from the same kind of entities. What are your thoughts on this?
Well, first of all, Tone, what exactly? Because we talk about the league.
And what's the criteria? Yeah.
Right. But what's the like? It's not the playoffs. Let's be clear about this, ladies and gentlemen. It's the Eastern Conference Championship. That's it. That's all this is about. And did Tyrese Halliburton, was he the most valuable player in the Eastern Conference Championship? Was Pascal Siakam the most valuable player in the Eastern Conference Championship? Well, considering what they did best, which was get up and down the floor, I would like to see Pascal Siakam rebound a little bit more. He's never really been a great rebounder. That's never really been his thing. But he's always been a bucket getter. He's one of the best transition players in the game. I don't think I had this conversation earlier today, Tone, where I only named 3 guys: James, Giannis, and Jaylen Brown. When I think about transition players in the game, those are the only 3 that I'm thinking about that are ahead of him. So with that being said, when I think about what he did for this Indiana team, how good this Indiana team was in terms of transition points, not just transition points, but how good they were in the half court, how important he was on their defense, I think that it was Pascal Siakam. That's who I had picked to win the Eastern Conference Finals MVP.
One of the things, listen, everyone wants to say numbers don't matter, but numbers do matter when it comes to the voting. Okay, I'll get to who influenced and affected the game more in a second, because I think they voted Siakam because of moments. The 39-point game, the 31-point game. From a numbers perspective, Siakam went for 20, I'll call it 25. 25, 5, and 3 with a steal and almost a block.
Mm-hmm.
He shot 67% from the free throw line.
Not good.
Halliburton only scored 4 less points. He went for 21 versus his, but out-rebounded him 6-5. Out-assisted him 10.5 to 3.5. 7 more assists per game. Also had 2.5 steals, so more than 1 assist per game and a third of a block.
Right.
Also shot 82% from the free throw line. Now, again, it's not all about numbers, but when we look at it statistically, it's Halliburton. When I look and do the eye test and I say, who is the one that's making this team, this offense, this unit go, it's Halliburton. I look at Siakam as a cog. Now, is there a ton of people in the NBA that could have filled his role? No, but is there some? Yes. I don't think anyone else makes this team go like him. He also hit Halliburton, the most important shot of that round. And so I think it's very odd to me that they picked Siakam because, again, it's for the whole season. It's not who had a better game. It's not who necessarily just scored the most points. Because the scoring was close between the two. And so I found it really, I think it was a shot at his dad.
I'm not going to do that. But what I am going to say,
I think media, the problem with media alone, like that media alone, being the ones that get to vote, is they have very long memories, even though they don't need to. And they take things personal. They're a bunch of little entitled little brats. I was going to say something else. And I think he got robbed of what is deservedly his. And listen, let's be even more clear. If you want to go down this path, I'll keep it short because we're out of time or running out of time. I don't even like them announcing an Eastern Conference MVP because I think it's stupid. I don't want them to get a banner. I don't want them to get a trophy. I don't think they deserve an MVP until you win the final. Okay, I'm sick of this. Oh, congratulations, you made it to the final. Congratulations, Buffalo Bills. Yeah, you lost. Get out of here. I hate that. That being said, he still got robbed.
I just thought that
let's raise a banner.
I just thought that, to your point, when you talk about the engine, Tyrese Halliburton was their primary ball handler. They tripled the Knicks. I don't know if you know this, Tone, because you're a numbers guy also, but they tripled the Knicks in transition points. And
I knew they out transitioned them. I didn't know it was triple.
Yeah, they tripled them in transition points. With them tripling, it was almost quadruple, Tone. Yeah, they tripled them in transition points. And Pascal Siakam was a large part of that. I mean, with the exception of the free throws, I mean, he went 50-50 for the series.
And like I'm not saying he's completely undeserving.
Oh, I'm not saying that point. I'm not using that point. But I think that when you consider, because this is also an Eastern Conference that they got wrong last year because they did the same thing with the Celtics. So Pascal Siakam led the team in scoring. He was second in rebounding, shot a really good percentage, so they give it to him. Jason Tatum on the other hand.
Hold on. He was second in rebounding to who?
Tyrese Halliburton.
Okay.
100%. So Jason Tatum, on the other hand, he leads the team in points. He leads the team in rebounds in the Eastern Conference Championship, by the way. And they give it to Jaylen Brown.
Why don't they do the entire playoffs?
That's it.
That's a great question because it's the Eastern Conference Championship. They should count every round.
Yeah, that's the thing that I'm a little bit confused about. Is it the Eastern Conference Finals MVP or is it the Eastern Conference Champion or is it the Eastern Conference MVP? Because I think it's the Eastern Conference Finals. So it's the Eastern Conference. It's just that specific series.
Okay.
No, it's just that specific series. And I just thought what Piazza,
it's the Larry Bird Trophy.
Yes, it is. And I thought what Siakam did, which to be honest with you, yesterday, Bird should have been giving him the trophy. Why wasn't he there to give him the trophy?
In Indiana, yeah.
Yeah, I don't understand. I mean, Bill Russell was the one handing over the Bill Russell trophy. I don't understand why Bird wasn't there. But that's a different conversation. What I'm saying is what Pascal Siakam did, I felt like he outplayed that New York Knicks front line. I thought that they used him in spaces where there was nobody else who could be used in those spaces. I feel like Halliburton, as a one-on-one player and as a shot creator, I thought that he did some good things, but I felt like Siakam, he was way more important for what they were doing overall, both in the half court and in transition and on defense.
I don't have the stats in front of me, but I guarantee you, having watched Pascal Siakam since his rookie season, I bet you if you go look in what he did the last minute of every game, it's going to underwhelm you.
That's interesting.
Because it's spin, move, miss, step back, miss. Spin, move, miss, step back, miss. That's all he does in the last minute of every game. But I'm going to look it up and find out.
Okay.
However, it brings up another point and last point on this one before we make our picks. Does this NBA Finals, it says this will help Tyrese Halliburton more than SGA if Indiana wins?
I think so, Tone. And the reason why I feel like that is, I mean, SGA, as good as he is and is he's still got some work to do. I think that Tyrese Halliburton, putting him in the pantheon of league guards. Like SGA, he's already a top 5 player in the game. I think that he moves up to being arguably the top league guard in the game because winning does matter. If Tyrese Halliburton were to do this, he's already been an all-pro. He's already been an all-star a few times. In addition to him doing that, he's been on the Olympic team. For him to win, I think he jumps a lot of guys. He might not go to the top he might not be the best point guard in the league, but I feel like he's definitely in that conversation now, considering how he performed. SGA is already in that space, so I don't think that there's much more that he can do right now. Now, would this help him later on down the line in terms of a legacy boost? I think so, because winning does matter. But Tyrese Halliburton, for him to be where he is, like a fringe top 5 point guard, for him to be a fringe top 5 point guard to now moving up into top 3, maybe even top 2, I think that does a lot more for him, especially doing it where he's doing it.
Yeah, I think it means more if he wins because he's further down the list, right? So if you are the underdog, if you are on the road, right, you don't have home court advantage, and you are thought of lesser than, and you win, right, against a player that just won MVP, scoring title, they have home court advantage. They're the number 1 seed. All the, it's of course right. It's going to do more for you. There's just certain things. Winning as the favorite, people always frown on that, which I don't understand why. But anyways, winning as a favorite is like thought of as not as impressive as winning as an underdog. But at the same time, if you lose as an underdog, it's forgiven. If you lose as a favorite, they ignore it.
Choked.
But that's a conversation for another day. So when you look at this finals now, so we finally got to it. OKC obviously the favorite. Do you go with the favorite, or do you have how Indiana contrarian pick? Are you going with the Pacers?
I think this is the ultimate test for Oklahoma City's defense. I think they thrive on it. I think they handle Indiana in 5 games. I think you're a football guy, Tone, so it reminds me of Bill Belichick's defensive coordinator mind when they played against the 49ers in 91 in the NFC Championship game, where Bill Belichick said, if we let Joe Montana stand in the pocket and throw all day, he's going to destroy us. We got to put some pressure on him. We got to get some heat on him, and we got to get that ball out of his hands a lot quicker than he wants to. Well, I feel like the same logic is for Tyrese Halliburton when it comes to the Oklahoma City defense. We cannot just let this dude just look at the defense and survey the defense. We got to get that basketball out of his hand. We got to get the ball in those other guys' hands, and we got to speed them up, and we got to make them make mistakes. We got to make them take long threes, because you know this as well as I do, Tone. Long threes equal long rebounds, which equals transition points, which equals transition opportunities, which is where Oklahoma City thrives. Just like as good as Indiana is in transition, Oklahoma City is just as good, and they generate a lot of their stuff on defense. So if we can get that ball out of Tyrese Halliburton's hands, put it in Matherin's hands, put it in Obi Toppin's hands, put it in Neesmith's hands, put it in Turner's hands, and making him take long threes, and we can get that transition game going, and we can get ourselves going, we put them in a really precarious situation, and I think that they're going to do that. I think that's a part of the plan, and that's why I think that they handle Indiana in 5 games.
Not because we're short on time, but I'll just say ditto. Because that's exactly what I said on Sunday night on NBA Max, like almost verbatim. I just think this is if Oklahoma City was going to get tested, they would have already been tested, and they were by Denver. Don't get me wrong, but that was their toughest road. This is not going to be. And I said, look, they're going to win the 4 games by an average of like 25 points. But they're going to
smoke in Oklahoma City.
No, yes.
I mean, Oklahoma, you got them smoking Indiana?
In the sense that, yes, because there'll be a couple of 30-point blowouts, and then one will be like a 10-point. It'll be closer, whatever. But then their one loss, they're going to get blown out. It's not going to be a close one. It's going to be Indiana goes for 142.
Kind of like what Cleveland did to the Warriors in 17. Smoked them. But then we knew Cleveland wasn't winning that series, though.
Exactly. I was just kind of like what Minnesota did to them the last series, right? Like they had that one where everything clicked because their defense, their offense, Indiana's, is so fast paced and they can score so quickly. They'll have one of those. They'll just get off to a hot start and they won't look back. And, because probably OKC is going to be up 2-1 at that time, and it'll be the first game in Indiana, they'll be like, all right, just let it happen. And then they'll come out in game 3. That'll be the close, or game 4, excuse me. That'll be the close win. And then they'll just go back home and finish it off. I hope that it goes 7, and I hope every game is 1 point, but I'm being realistic with, right? Because that's the best. 2 cents. We're going to get to you in 1 second, my man. I'm putting the link in there as well. Let's jump through these really quick because I don't know what this means either. Yo, does anybody know what chill means when he says, give him the kid about Nikola topic?
Mars and I had a conversation about all the draft picks and all the players that Oklahoma City has and Brooklyn, where they were. And I was talking about giving Oklahoma City their number 1, and Mars, give me the kid. Because I know you don't need him. You already got a lead guard and SGA. So give me the kid, Mars. Mars doesn't want to give me the kid. He's not interested in handing him over.
Who's OKC handing him over to Brooklyn?
Yes, to Brooklyn.
Why would they do that?
This kid, well, first of all, you already got a lead guard in SGA. He's already fantastic. And you already got a bunch of other guards that are under contract. This kid, Topic, even though Oklahoma City is one of the best teams in developing guys, you don't need this kid. You got a bunch of guys already that you're over there developing. You got SGA, who's the best guard in the league, arguably. We need a lead guard over here. So give me the kid, Tone. Hand him over.
I thought they were going to send him to Toronto to go with Giannis. And Nickeil Alexander-Walker, who they're going to sign as a free agent, and then you'll have Brook Lopez as your center, and there you go. Toronto's ready to go. All right, so that's what you mean by that. He managed egos, not a great X's and O guy. Yeah, that's Phil Jackson. How can you be a great coach if you're not a great X and O guy? So you're a therapist. Get out of here. Chill and Fluent. Quick question. All right. 10 seconds left on the shot clock. This is my first time reading this. 10 seconds left on the shot clock to end the game. You get it in the post. Your matchup is food. You go into a post hook or post fade to win the game. I already know your answer.
Yeah, I'm going to face you up in my reverse pivot. That's money. Game
I don't know which. It depends on which side I'm on. Because if I'm on the left block, I'm going middle with a little baby hook. If I am on the right, I will fade baseline.
I'm on the right block, so yeah, I'm turning over my left shoulder.
Yes. So there you go. Actually, I was a drop step and dunk it on him. I always wanted to do that, just drop step, bang it on him. But nope, was not meant to be. All right, 2 cents. You're gonna get the last 2 cents unless someone else comes up.
What up? Nope.
No, sir. I'm just gonna take. Oh, wait.
Oh my God.
Hey,
oh, there you go. There you go. Okay.
What up?
What's up, fellas?
What up?
Yeah. Hey, look. It's the 2 cents. It's a short show at this point in time. But what I'm gonna say, I know a lot of things that people are gonna say. You got to understand that they're gonna be inherently biased to what it is. Everybody thinks their child should have won the contest and this, that, and other, and people do that as adults. When they're looking at their team, they cheated us.
They call fans.
Yeah, they're called fanatics.
There's a reason it's called fandom.
Fandom.
Yeah, fandom. Yeah. Exactly. Exactly. But what I was saying about, I know the biasness. Do you know a guy didn't sign your autograph or something like that, or he did something to your favorite player or something like that? It's nothing that you can do to correct their mind. I've been working at a hospital for a long time. Thank God for that. I saw the psychology of what people can think and what they think. I don't know what they think, but at the end of the day, I still know how they're thinking. That's the only thing that I'm saying. And when you hear people, pundits and stuff like that, It's a reason why Nick Wright. I mean, you don't know how close or how much what he did for Nick Wright's family because he supported him and stuff like that. So I have a certain level of biasness. And what I tell a lot of people a lot of time, and my girl, and she can vouch for it. I don't have a favorite team, football, basketball, and all that, or a favorite food. Guess what? I get to enjoy every team. Every team. I don't care. And I don't bet. Yeah. Throw that in there. You know, I don't know if y'all got prize picks or something. I'm looking on the screen. I don't know. I ain't no, bash that. But I don't do that. So I understand.
We all
Yeah. But I still, I know people that do it and stuff like that. And I can help and assist with the picks and stuff like that. But if I wrote that, I've already wrote down what I be saying and what I'm like, man, I just wish people could understand what I see a lot of times. Just like you guys, you got a wealth of knowledge. You just wish that you can get a person like Ron or Mars or anybody, just see it from my perspective. I don't disrespect your opinion. It is what it is. That's your frame. That's your frame of reference at the end of the day. And when I get on here with y'all guys, man, it's like sitting in a room with my homeboys that I went to school with and this, that, and other. And I appreciate y'all even let me come up when I do come up because I definitely feel that vibe because we all are around the same exact age. And I understand the biasness when people say things about people. You don't know what they did.
Listen, you don't make you never. This is gonna be our last show.
What happened?
He didn't wish me a happy birthday on Friday, so it's like,
whoa, who birthday was Friday? My birthday was Wednesday. I'm a Gemini, bro. I'm the 28th. Don't play like that. I knew it was a reason why. Man, stop playing with me, bro. I caught Chill them on the show. Hey, Chill don't normally do playback, but he did it with Ox. Like, you know what I'm saying? He did it with Ox. Oh my God! It wasn't your birthday for real.
Oh no, yeah, it was. It was, but I don't make a big deal about it. I don't actually. I don't even tell anybody.
No, me either, man. I'm just trying to goddamn live my glory days and all that kind of stuff too. At the end of the day, you just told. I didn't know it was your birthday. You didn't do a show. Ox and Ox did a show. Well, I should say just Ox.
You know what I did? I went for a nice dinner with my family, and then I went out and did what I do every Friday night. I went and hooped and played ball with my
baby. Go get the food.
Just hey, the fact that I can still play. If you can still play, like I was like, I can still play. So, you got to bounce. All right. Last word.
That was it, man. I just love it. Hey,
we know where to find you at, brother.
Appreciate you, brother.
Hey, man. Hey, I'm gonna find you on YouTube. They be blocking y'all a lot of times. I appreciate you. I got it,
brother. Good to talk to you.
As my Gemini brother.
So, ladies and gentlemen, just so you guys know, I'm a scumbag. Yes, I am. 100%. I'm trash. My brother over here, I did not hit him for his birthday. I should have hit him for his birthday, and I apologize for that.
That hurt more than I was gonna say something I'm gonna get in trouble for, so I'm not gonna say it.
Absolutely.
But hey, are you doing something else after this?
Yeah, I'm supposed to go talk to
Hoopstorians?
Yes. I'm gonna do that for a little bit.
All right. That should be fun. What are you guys talking about?
He's got a sports psychologist coming on, so that's
all right. That's cool.
I'm interested to do that. So we are going to do that. So that's going to be dope. I'm interested in doing that. So, but we will see you guys soon. Coming from a scumbag, I'll be less scumbaggish next time I see you guys because
You've been hanging out Mars too long.
Yes, it's definitely rubbing off on me. So
Shout
we'll
out
see you
Mars.
guys soon. You know where to find us at every Tuesday night. Me and my man Tony Tone, we do this. You can find us right here on the Sports Fluent and Chill Town Hoops Network. We will see you guys soon. Until then, put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey man, call your mother. When's the last time you talked to your mother? Call your mother. We'll talk to you guys soon. But until then, take it light. Take it. Absolutely, man. It's good to see you guys. Oh, Canada. Put on a suit, drink water, don't drink and drive. Hey, man, call your mother.
It means nothing. It means nothing.
Nah, they lying to you. It's about the money.
Now you're more fluent.